So before we do solving inequalities, we first need to talk about intervals versus sets. So we're talking about intervals and sets. So these are really just two different ways to represent a group of numbers. So either you can write the group of numbers as an interval or write the group of numbers as a set. So, for example, let's say I'm trying to somehow represent all numbers between 2 and 3. And I want to include the number 3. I don't want to include the number 2. So I want to know, how can I represent this? Well, the two ways are a set. So sets have brackets or an interval. So we're going to do both. So for a set, you say all x such that. So the first is your variable. You can change it to be whatever you want. If you want to write, a star or p or t, whatever you want. The line here means such that. We want to say that x is strictly greater than -2, less than or equal to 3. Because we're including 3, we're not including 2. So that's the set notation. Now as an interval, kind of to the side here, parentheses mean not equal to, brackets mean you can be equal to. So over here, I want to be larger than -2, less than -3, but I also could be equal to 3. Sorry, not -3, just 3. So that's one example, intervals and sets. Do a couple more of these. Let's say I want to represent the numbers from -4 to -1, but also from 3 to 8. So how do I represent this with a set? Well, there's actually more than one group of numbers, so we're going to have two different sets. So my first is going to be all x, such that -4x and -1. You got to decide, should I be less than or less than or equal to? Well, the open circles say just less than. Union means put together with. Also want to add x such that 3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 8. That's one way to write this. A more compact way, though, -4 to -1, not including either one, together with 3 to 8, including those endpoints. So that's an interval versus a set. Now you can also talk about what happens when you go towards infinity. So maybe I want to talk about all the numbers that are less than 5. So all of that, but also all of the numbers that are greater than 8. Just like the last one, I have more than one set, so I'm going to have to have a union. So the first one, all x such that, well, we said x was less than 5. For the second one, all x such that x was greater than or equal to 8. So that's one way to write this. But now let's write it as a set. So for the first set, what's the smallest x could be? Well, there isn't one. It goes all the way towards negative infinity. Now with infinity, it's always going to be parentheses. You're never going to have a bracket. What's the largest x could be? Could be 5, not equal to 5. For the second set, what's the smallest x could be? 8. And then we go up towards infinity. So I get from 8 to infinity. So that's intervals and sets. Remember, with infinity, it always is going to be a parenthesis because you can't be equal to infinity. Infinity is just an idea.